Quishbilly, Huddersfield Town! The most famous goal of Quishbilly's life.
Is this the moment for Lee Fowler? It is! Take your place in Division 2, Huddersfield Town.
Champion Steve Simonson's boots now. He's missed! Steve Simonson clears the flame of the goal and collapses in a heap of tears. Huddersfield Town are promoted.
Mustafa Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And he takes that chance!
Good evening and welcome to episode 128 of the Andy Takes That Chance podcast. This week we get back on board the Carlos coaster, which ducked and weaved all over the place like me trying to set up this Wirecast stream. We'll take a look back over a good win down at the Select Car Leasing Stadium, as well as say farewell to an old player. This week saw the sad passing of a rock icon, Meatloaf. It's all coming back to me now about the time 20 years ago a young chap by the name of Matthew Shaw went on Stars in Their Eyes as Meatloaf and won. For the next 15 years, if you Google my name, the first hit that would always come up would be Matt Shaw, number one Meatloaf impersonator in the UK. So I've always got Meatloaf to thank for that. And with me, if you Google Andy Kay, the first thing that comes up is the Regional Operations Manager of Gap Limited, which is interesting. If you Google Tom Bradshaw, and of course, the first thing that pops up is the Millwall striker. And if you Google Phil Senior, you get a Drake's League official and umpire, as well as our goalkeeper Phil. So welcome to everybody watching online as well. How are we doing, guys? Good evening to you all. I'll just make sure these guys can hear us online first as well, because you never know what's going to happen. You can speak, guys. You know, say how are you? This is what you talk, and you come in. How are you doing, Phil?
Very good, Matt. How are you?
Yeah, good. Just sending some messages out to the people that are watching us. We've got 18 people watching us online at YouTube at the minute, and we're just going to make sure that people can hear us loud and clear over there, because you know we don't go down without a hitch too many times, do we, Phil? On this podcast. So,
no. Tom, do you want to tell him?
That Tom did the intro. Here he goes. Here he goes. Professionalism. Professionalism.
All right.
Yeah. Matt, you're terribly echoing, mate.
Yeah, Matt, you're echoing a bit, I think.
Am I echoing? Okay.
Yeah.
Never mind. Let's see what they see online. Yep, all fine online. So you'll have to just grin and bear it, I'm afraid.
All right,
Johnny.
That's good. As long as it's
Johnny
okay
Goggs and Tom
else.
say it's all working. So you know I don't care about you three. You can. I'm going to echo all night for you. Right. Okay. So. First things first, Magic Rock Brewing are the proud sponsors of Andy Takes That Chance. Magic Rock have some great stuff that you can buy over at shop.htfc.com. As well as that, if you fancy getting yourself a couple of brewskis over at Magic Rock, you can use our code of AHTCC10, TTC10, for 10% off. It's a bit of a mouthful, is that? I might get that changed just to make that easier. But if you use our code, you will get 10% off all online orders. So thank you to Magic Rock, and also a big hello to Down at the Mac user, Town Fan in Ohio. I've been asked if I could give a shout out to a fan of the podcast and someone who flies the Huddersfield Town flag over in stateside. So keep up the good work there. Right, guys. So it's been a while since Phil and Tom, you've been on the main episode. Phil, I think people will be quite interested to know what have you made about the recent goings on at Huddersfield Town. You know, there's been a lot of talk about the owners, the owner. You know, Marcus Evans is linked. Apparently, there's been a couple of parties in talk. It all seems very all systems go behind the scenes. We don't know a lot, but what have you made of things and how they've been developing?
Do you know what? It's like you've just said there. There's so many things that's being said that until something firm happens, there's no point even for me anyway. There's no point even kind of guessing. I think it's the right thing, obviously, that obviously Dean, it sounds like he's looked after us very well, and Dean has Huddersfield Town's best interests at heart. So I just hope that whoever we bring in next is going to push us in the direction that we want to. I think we've got a fantastic start to this season. Things seem to be in place. If you read between the lines, and they're talking about kind of team morale, and it's never been as good. Lee Nichols, he had an interview the other day, and he said it's the team spirit in the change room is fantastic. So I think we need to make the most of this now. I think we need to bring someone in who's. I don't buy into this. They need loads of money. I don't. We've said it before. We've said it again. We need to stabilise the club. We need to make the clubs make sure the club is a strong championship outfit year in, year out. And whoever comes in, for me, that is the target. Anything else after that is a bonus. But for me, like we've just been talking off air, and you look at clubs like my lad plays at Barnsley.
I guess you've been talking off air. I've not done a lot of talking off air, have I?
Well, you wouldn't know. But last year flying a clear mindset of how they wanted to play, etc., etc. Now look at them. What an absolute mess. The style of play. A friend of mine today said the performance yesterday from Barnsley, professional football, as he says, was embarrassing. And he's an ex-footballer. He says it was absolutely embarrassing. We don't want to go kind of through with that. We want to stabilise. We want a good, solid club. I think that's what the fans want. And I think whoever comes in, fingers crossed, it's someone with a level head. Someone maybe will work closely with Dean. I have no idea how that might work, but and then obviously push the club forward. It's no coincidence that a few people have left and everything seems to be a little bit rosier. So read between the lines.
Fantastic. So we'll move on to the game against Reading as well. So Tom, you live way down south, don't you? Way down there. You made the game. What did you make of the atmosphere? Because from looking at the pictures, there seemed to be barely anybody there from Reading. It seemed to be about 4,000 people max almost. How was the atmosphere? How was the ground? And that first half, some pretty bad defending, really, wasn't there? But I think we'd probably gloss over some of that because it certainly added to an exciting game of football.
Oh yes, it was it's one of those, isn't it? Especially that first half, it was a terrible game of football, but it's better when it's a terrible game where both teams can't defend rather than it being one of those 0-0s where no one can score. Do you know what I mean? I give a bit of credit to Reading fans because they've done what we've done and they've given them half of the away end now, kind of. So there was actually a decent atmosphere in that part of the ground, but we were speaking to a few after, and they're really not happy with everything that's going on. The dodgy owners. One of them was saying these owners that they had before have had 2 clubs in the past, and both those clubs don't exist anymore. I'm sure Reading won't get to that stage, hopefully, but it's bad times for them at the moment. And they seem the ones that we were speaking to after the game seem pretty certain that they're going to go down this season. But it was a crazy first 25 minutes. Sorba Thomas was awesome for me. He seemed to be involved in all the goals, and he wound Reading fans up so much.
He had them rattled, didn't he? He had them rattled, yeah.
So hilarious, yeah.
That's of course that's Sorba Thomas, sponsored by AKLD. Obviously, make sure we get that in, yeah.
Yeah, they were not happy with him, and then Danny Ward did everything you want. He just took his chances. The first 2, they just fell too nice, and he finished them. And then the third goal, bloody hell, what a goal! I was right behind it, just did not hit it any better. Perfect.
A thunder bastard is what it was described as after the game, and I think that sums it up perfectly. Really interesting. Well, interesting first half. 1 minute you're pulling your hair out, the next minute you're jumping up and down. It's, a couple of months ago, me and Poz sat here and we said we were so bored of watching Huddersfield Town, and ever since then they've rammed that straight down mine and Poz's throats, and every game's been a bit of a thriller, really, and that was no different. Of course, for legal reasons, I was in Spain yesterday watching the game on iFollow. But I have to say that the Reading commentary was, over the last 2 seasons where we've been at home during lockdown, the Reading commentary team is the worst in the Championship by a mile. They are really bad, and they were haranguing Danny Drinkwater all game. Really slating him. And one of them was really. So while I'm saying this, be thankful for Oggy and Matt Glennon, because they're pretty decent for us. One of them was complaining vociferously, Phil, about a goal, about Danny Ward's second goal, which was where the goalkeeper came over the top of the defence, got his body position wrong and fell and smacked his head against the ball and dropped it. They were claiming foul. The other one who was with him was like, no, shut up. But there's absolutely, me and you, paid up full members of the Goalkeepers Union. They can bollocks. That wasn't a foul in a million years, was it? Has Phil muted himself?
No, he's not showing us muted.
Oh,
I hope he's got the lurgy that you got before the start of the session.
Yeah, I wonder if he's doing this on purpose.
It was not a foul, though. No way.
Never seen a foul. There were plenty of fouling going on in the. They were sort of grappling with each other. Who was it? Yeah. Tom Lees was grabbing hold of somebody, and they was grabbing hold of him. And I think he's fallen slightly across Pearson, but Pearson's got to be somewhere on the pitch, hasn't he? So the lad didn't commit a foul. Yes, he was there. Yes, he was possibly blocking him. But when he's gone on floor, he's sort of thrown it into his own forehead, and it's bounced off straight to Danny Ward's face. There was another goalkeeper in the AFCON, wasn't there, that did a sort of similar sort of thing on it, and then sort of flicked it backwards. So it wasn't quite as bad as that, but no foul there. Never seen a foul there.
So Phil, we think you're on mute somehow there, so we didn't hear a word of what you were saying.
Sorry, I am on
there
mute.
He is. All that stick you were giving me. You were giving me loads of pelters before this. Honestly, people... While the curtain was pulled on, Phil was giving me hammer for sorting out some audio issues, and there he is talking away with no one can hear him. But so what were you saying, Phil?
It wasn't a foul. Hey, I tell you what though, that the one in the AFCON, that was unlucky because as he's dived for that ball, his knees got stuck.
The pitch was bad, wasn't it?
Stuck in the turf, jolted him, and then. I mean, I'm sure they were rolling around. He was probably injured or something, but yeah, that was a bit of a nightmare, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, then there's not a foul in a million years. I know Matty Pearson's stood there, isn't he? And Matty Pearson doesn't lean in or anything. He's just there, and he's occupied by the Reading player. So there's no case really to argue then. And our defending was a little bit sketchy, wasn't it? Sort of first half, we switched to a back four, and we really, the players we've got really suit a back three, don't they? They've got a really good balance. Matty Pearson has looked really good on the right side of a three. Tom Lees in the middle, sort of is almost like the puppet master, isn't he? Controlling the other two either side. Fantastic communicator. But they played in a four, and the fullbacks pushed quite up, didn't they? And Jonathan Hogg didn't really drop in. Usually, what you get, Hoggy drops into the middle, doesn't he? And then you get that you kind of get that three in possession, but he wasn't doing that either. So they got really sort of badly exposed and I think it was just a tactical thing, really. They got badly exposed for especially the first two Reading goals. The third one, there's a real sort of another communication issue where nobody picks up Morrison, and it's a very sort of lucky goal, really, for Reading. Not that we can complain about lucky goals, can we? But, that kind of typified that first half, really. The 3-3, it was just an absolute a madhouse, really. But I think, to be fair, you've got to give a lot of credit to Carlos Corberán again for the way that we came out second half, and we looked pretty solid. We really solidified. He made a couple of changes. Pippa and Toffolo dropped, or Piper, as the Reading commentators called him. They dropped, a lot deeper, and we looked pretty good. We came out, and Danny Ward. I think we need to talk about Danny Ward by himself. I've got a couple of stats on Danny Ward here, so I'm just going to mute you, Andy. Just because there's a bit of feedback coming through. Actually, no, I'm going to mute Phil because there's the feedback's coming through Phil. There we go. I'll unmute you, Phil, before we go on. But yes, so Danny Ward. So, there's a lot of Town fans at the minute on social media apologising to Danny Ward at the minute, saying, I thought it'd be a terrible signing. I've called him rubbish for the last 18 months. I'm sorry, Danny Ward. And it is funny, but it's really good to see at the same time that people aren't doubling down on their opinions, going, it's still crap. You know what I mean? People are actually going, do you know what, fair play, Danny Ward. And it's good to see that. And I've got a lot of time for people who, we all say things. I said Town would finish 18th this season. I was clearly talking nonsense. So we all say things and the opposite happens sometimes. And I think it's good that people can say, do you know what, I got that one wrong. And Danny Ward's actually turning out to be a really decent player. He's a Kirkburton native, I think. Like, are you, Phil? Are you there? Or are you Kirk Eaton? It's a Kirk thing, isn't it, that you're over? Phil, sorry, you're muted. Yep, sorry. Yep. So Danny Ward's from your neck of the woods as well. I think what what's really great about Danny Ward as well is that he's working incredibly hard off of the ball. You know, his hold-up play is fantastic this year. You know, he spins in possession, he brings others into play, and he's a really decent striker. And what I wanted to point out was that I'm going to take credit for Danny Ward in a way, because when I started making that Christmas video with Harry Toffolo, Danny Ward was on 4 goals for the season. Ever since they started that video, he's got 6 goals in 6 games, which is really funny, because that video was kind of, it started off as a, you know, Danny Ward's really isolated. You know, we'll do a funny little sketch about him being isolated, and then halfway through starting this video, he started scoring goals. So I had to tweak the video as we went on, and the video actually turned out far better than it probably would have done. So Danny Ward made my video, really, I think is what I'm trying to say there. But I thought it'd be quite interesting to have a look as well about our top scorers. You know, Danny Ward's got 10 goals now. Nobody thought he would get any more than sort of around this figure, and certainly not at this stage. Since we came back into the top 2 divisions in 2012, 19 is the highest anybody's scored in a season, which of course is Carl and Grant. I think 7 or 8 of those were penalties, and I have interesting conversations with Dave Hartrick, who thinks you should count penalties as goals like that. And I kind of think, well, me and Andy Kay could walk up off the street and score a professional penalty, whereas, well, maybe. But, you know, I think there's a lot more stock in an open play goal, for example. But, you know, only Vaughan, James Vaughan, Naki Wells and Kachunga have scored more than what Danny Ward has this year. So I think that also just feeds into, you know, how well Danny Ward's done. And Phil, tell us about Danny Ward and the good things that he does, because I've talked enough there.
I mean, I think you've hit the nail on the head there, and you are allowed to. I'm not saying being negative, but you are allowed to have an opinion on someone if they're not playing well. You know, that you're 100% right. If someone's not playing well, you can actually say, not quite playing well at the moment. How did he miss that? Blah blah blah. You're allowed to do that, but the difference is this season is that he's getting the support. He's getting balls into the box. How many tap-ins has he had? First time, bang into the back of the net. Timing his runs perfect. He's always worked ridiculously hard. He's looking absolutely brilliant. And because he is a good player, no one's ever said he's not a good player. It's just not performing well last season. But now I looked at one point yesterday, and there was about 5 players in the box from wide areas again. So we're pushing more people in. So he's now getting these opportunities. And he's a local lad. He works hard. He gives 110% every single game. A bit like Fraser Campbell, 110%. So you can't fault that. Now he's adding with his goals, and that's exactly what you want. I think he's been brilliant, breath of fresh air. And the thing is, and I've said this before on the pod, if you get your striker leading from the front, pressing hard, working hard, sets the tempo, and then the rest of the team will follow. And like I say, the team morale at the moment, that's what they're all doing. They're all pressing, they're all working hard, and it looks great. Chroma and Sorba, both wings, pushing on, staying high instead of dropping back and defending. You know, Reading, we conceded a few goals because we've gone a little bit more attacking. Changes it, perfect. He's going to get those. He's going to get that assist. He's going to put the ball in the box with Danny Ward. He's going to score goals. Simple as that. I hope it continues. I hope he breaks 20. I really do. And not just to stick it in. Well, yeah, to stick it in people's faces, really, because we all said that he was struggling at the start of the season. It'd be nice to see him do it. Leading scorer of the league. Who's got the most goals in the league at the moment?
Mitrovic has got about 5 goals a game, doesn't he? Mitrovic is flying. He's got like 20 odd, hasn't he?
He might get injured. You never know.
I think he might have it nailed. Brent Burton Diaz has got quite a lot as well, hasn't he? And I think there's someone else is quite high up. Andy, you kind of nodded, didn't you, with giving credit to Carlos Colbrand for the turnaround as well? Because I think everybody, me especially, I can mention it when Carlos gets it wrong. I try and mention it as well when he gets it right. I think in cases like that, I agree with what Phil's saying. You're allowed an opinion, but always try and balance it up. And I think Carlos, again, for the last 2 months, comes out with enormous credit, doesn't he? With 9 unbeaten, including the cup. Huge test coming up against Stoke this Friday, which is going to be very interesting as well. That's going to be, I think that's a real sort of yardstick of where we are this year. How do you rate the tweaks that he's made and his overall performance?
I think he's still learning, isn't he? He's still a relatively young bloke. He's making the odd mistake. I think he talked yesterday about he didn't get the game plan right all the way through, and particularly against. Who was it? Swansea. Left it too late to bring Jordan Rhodes on. Way too late. And when we changed back to two up front, much better than we were before. I've never been 100% in Team Corberan, but he's getting there. Like before this run started, I was taking my lad to the games purely because he loved it in the South Stand and he wanted to go, and being the atmosphere that was around there, and it was getting a little bit turgid, a little bit like what Swansea did to us second half, just pass it in like a U shape around, and we didn't take any risks. We all looked petrified to take a chance, and it now looks like he's gone. Do you know what? Let's try, do something. Do it quickly. Try not to get too caught up in your defensive duty. Yesterday, People was right up front. Toff was right up front as well, by the looks of it. So I think he's getting better. I don't know tactically what tweaks he's made. That's not what I know about football. It's one of those things. I like a bit like Phil was saying. I like the energy, the passion, the enthusiasm, people representing me wearing that blue and white shirt. You're me on that pitch type of thing. And I want people to do that with all their heart and all the passion that they can do that. And I think we've started to see that. I just felt they might be a little bit scared up until about 10, 12 games ago to be actually express themselves and go, you know what, we feel like we can try something. Because it looked like he was just getting on them all the time from the touchline. If they got something wrong, he was straight in the face. And maybe he's dropped that criticism side of it a little bit. I don't know, but he seems to be getting better and better and better, and more power to his elbow. Yeah, Danny Ward's proving me wrong. Corberan's proving me wrong. I still just want another 6 points, and then we can have mid-table mediocrity for the rest of the season. I still just want them 50 points, but you never know.
Never know, do you?
Who knows what's going on?
Exactly. I had a quick Google, Phil, while Andy was talking there. The last time I can see that a Town player got 20 goals in a second-tier season was 98-99. And obviously we know who that was, don't we? Marcus Stewart. So it's been quite a while since a Town player's got 20 goals at this level. Jordan Rhodes obviously got 40 in the year below, in the division below. But moving on swiftly as well. A great win, Tom. What was the Danny Ward came over and celebrated in front of the fans. I think they all let him have a little walk to the fans, didn't they, and celebrate by himself. I saw him take the match ball off. He stuck that up his jumper quite quickly as well. What was it like in the away end when we won the game? I always go back to the Wagner season, 16-17, and it was Rotherham away was the game where Tommy Smith scored right at the end. And that was the game where I was like, and Valentine's night, I'd sack the wife off for my mate Tom, go to watch Town. She was obviously thrilled with that decision. But Tommy Smith scored, and that was the game where I thought, shit, we could do this. We could actually not only get in the playoffs, but we could get promoted this season. And is that belief coming in yet? The away crowd, is it there? Or I've seen a few people try and make comparisons, and I don't really feel the comparison between the two seasons. It feels very different to me. But does the belief feel like it's there with the fans? Especially when you're getting pulled back and losing, and then when the scores all over the place. How were the fans, and how was the reaction in the stands when we went 1-0 down and got pegged back, and especially at the end as well? What was the feeling like?
That 25 minutes was hilarious. Like, it was more funny than anything. The kind of to and fro between the two fans was very funny, because obviously it was like literally every 5 minutes back and forth. I might get a few pelters from Town fans here, I don't know, but I think we need to up it a level. I don't think people are in that kind of camp of maybe believing we could do something yet. And there was a point in that game when it was 4-3 with about 10 minutes to go, and we were just trying to get some stuff going just to maybe get behind the lads a bit more. And it just, don't know, it wasn't clicking. And I just think we can up it a bit as fans, especially when I think the players are trying their hardest to kind of reconnect with the fans, because there was all that talk about maybe there was a bit of a disconnect, and they're coming over at the end. They're really getting involved. Lewis O'Brien giving his shirt to someone at the end as well. So I maybe Town fans won't be happy with me saying that, but I think we can up it a bit and start making a bit more noise, and start believing a bit more in this team, I think. Fair
enough. I think what we should do now is have a look on YouTube and just have a look at what the other other people are saying. So we've got 32 watching us at the moment. So thank you very much to everybody that has logged on and wasted their Sunday night, if you like, listening to us ramble on about football. It's great to see you there. Right, okay. So Tom says we really missed Colwill. I'm just going to mute you a second, Phil. Right, just bring that back. Yep. So Tom says we really missed Colwill. Lees and Toffs just didn't work quite well on that side. Pete Swallow says we looked good attacking yesterday. Defending was below par first half. Bez 5678 says we had 13 shots in the first 15 minutes. How mad is that? Lol. That is actually quite mad because there was a period I think at one point where we probably didn't have that across 3 games. Never mind 15 minutes. So, and I think a shout out as well to Daniel Sinani, who must have had about 75% of those shots at one point. He was really sort of fancying it, wasn't he? And he got 1 goal. He was spreading play quite well from the right hand side, and it was good to see Daniel Sinani back in the side because at one point during the week we thought we might have lost him to injury for a little spell. So good to see him back in. Johnny Goggs says didn't make it easy, but excellent to score 4 away, 2 up top for Reading. Through us, plus Lucas Zhao always has Town's number. He always does have Town's number. A good adjustment in the second half to see it out, and Ward was outstanding. Terrier 7N2 says, I think we were lucky versus Reading. Any better team not scoring 4. Also, I would sell Karoma to Bournemouth tomorrow if those stories are true. We'll cover that in a short while. Richard Crowther says, no Town player ever even touched their keeper. I think that's in reference to that goal. Johnny Gogg says, also agree about Reading commentary. Dipping into other teams' commentary on iFollow occasionally, and the standard is hilariously poor. Oggy and Glennon are a class apart. Andy Dworski says, pretty sure as I listened to Oggy commentary with Sky Sports Footy on, the Benny Hill theme tune kicked in. Crazy first 45 minutes. Phil Marston says, well said, Tom. I'm not sure if that means you, Tom Bradshaw, or the Tom in the chat, so we'll move on. Richard Crowther says, the biggest thing in the last month is that after 4 seasons, we no longer think the game is lost if the opposition score first. I think that's a good point because there's been a few occasions where, I think we've had a few podcasts and we used to call it one and done. That was, I think, Neil's saying at one point, one and done. As soon as the opposition score, that was it. You might as well pack up and go home. And that is definitely changing now, which is great to see. So you've got some pushback here, Tom, from Terrier 792. It says it's okay saying Town fans need to up it and start to believe. Problem is there will be no ambition from the board to make us believe, in my opinion. We'll cover that in a moment as well. And Phil Marston says, where do we need to strengthen? So we will move the topic on. Okay, so I'm going to move it on now to you, Phil, so I better unmute you as well. So during the course of the week, we were very sad to see that Jamie Vincent passed away. Jamie Vincent, an excellent left-back for Huddersfield Town. He signed under when Peter Jackson was here for around £500,000. And then once he settled into the side, especially under Steve Bruce, I think we saw one of the best fullbacks in the Championship at that point. He was really outstanding, really good left foot. Quality delivery from that left-hand side, a smashing player. And oddly enough, the last time I got a player on a shirt was Jamie Vincent in about the year 2000. I had number 3 Vincent, and I think I've got that upstairs somewhere, so I'm going to try and dig that out at some point. But so Jamie Vincent was a player I thought quite a lot of, and I know you thought quite a lot of him, Phil, as well. Just tell us what you spent a bit of time around him. What was Jamie Vincent like as a person and a character? Just unmute yourself, Phil.
Yeah, we were kind of crying out for a good quality left back, and I think he totally changed the way that team performed. I think it was a great addition when they signed him, and obviously you don't know the background of a player before they come, how they're going to settle in, what type of character they are, and my first kind of recollections of him when I first met him was it was my first game, away game, on the bench as usual. On the bench, and it was Watford away, and obviously I was only 15, I think, and I roomed at Delroy, and we stayed in the Arsenal hotel. So where Arsenal used to eat in the morning, they never slept there, but where they used to eat in the morning, we actually stayed in there. So I'll never forget this one morning. Tony Adams, Martin Keown, Patrick Vieira all came walking past us. I'm like, oh my god! But for me, I was more starstruck being with the players from Huddersfield because of me being a fan. And I thought it was going to be a trip where I'd just sat in my room and Delroy maybe go out and see the rest of the lads, etc. But he took me out and we went for a game went for a game of pool, and this were kind of the first time I had a chance to speak to Jamie, and he was an absolute fruitcake. He really was. And we had a game of pool, and I'm not going to give you the full story of what went on, but it really opened my eyes up to professional football and adult football. And it was just it was a top character. I got the message the other night from Delroy telling me obviously the sad news, and it just recently over Christmas been in London with Craig Armstrong. So I didn't ask too much about what's happened, and I still really don't know much what's happened because it's private for them really. And I just think it's so sad. He's got a young family, and he's only young. He's only a young age, and you just can't believe it, can you? It's to have it kind of brings everything to light really. People you're always talking about, oh, I'd love to be a professional footballer, but there's more to things in life than football. And I'm sure that everyone's sad at Huddersfield Town to see it, and every club that he's been to, because I'm sure in every single changing room he would have been a massive character.
Did we mark it yesterday? Did we wear black armbands or anything like that, Tom? I don't remember seeing them. I think Town should do something. A young player, relative 20 odd years ago. I think we should be. Hopefully, they'll be doing something at the home game against Stoke. But I used to love watching him play, like wander the left foot, and just seemed like what you were saying. Felt like a really decent bloke. So yeah, it was. I'm massive. I went. You just cannot believe that somebody that young and with his young family. I've seen some stuff on Twitter. I think he was he was a granddad as well. Only relatively young. He got a grandchild. Forgive me if I'm wrong on that one, but just a horrible thing to happen. And
it's really strange to think, because his life could have gone a totally different way, because where Huddersfield were at the time. If we hadn't sold Marcus, it could have been a totally different story. Yeah. He was that good a player. He could have been a Premier League left back for many years, because he did have that quality. It was like the wonder of a left foot. He was a great player, but. Yeah, really sad, isn't it?
Yeah, there wasn't anything, Andy, I don't think, on the. So hopefully they'll do something Friday night, I think.
Yeah. Sure.
So all the best. Yeah, so all the best to Jamie Vincent's family, and it's a really sad loss, and one that we all feel from having watched him, and and Phil from having known him as well. So all the best to the Vincent family. Okay. So we'll move on now to other matters. So it's the last full week of the transfer window. Huddersfield Town have done not a lot incoming so far. There was a tweet by the big man, Neil Wayne, just for anyone who doesn't know who Neil is, who said, this was a tweet they put out on Saturday, and he says, "Now we will find out what Dean's intentions are, because with a couple of decent loan additions, we can really have a go for the top 6 now. Only a week left to add them." So I thought that was quite a pertinent one to start with, really, because we are in the last full week of the transfer window. Little bits that I heard were that if Town were going to be active, it would be late in the window. So we're now at that point. Dean said, I think Mark Devlin may have said this. There might be some cross wires, but I think the phrase was Dean mentioned for Carlos, etc., to give him a problem, to solve. It was a lot. I might be paraphrasing, but it was along those lines. So I'll throw this back to you guys. What problems to solve do you think we have? We've had a couple in over here already on YouTube. Richard Crowther does mention that all the players are commenting on the team spirit. I think you mentioned that before we went live, didn't you, Phil? They're all mentioning, need to be careful we don't risk bringing anyone in who will spoil that just for the sake of buying someone. And I immediately start thinking, I go back to the 90s where Tino Asprilla went in at Newcastle, when they were going for the league, and it all kind of fell. He was great, wasn't he? But it all kind of seemed to fall, didn't it, around at that point as well. Jerry Hinnon. So hi, Jerry. Jerry, another authentic American Huddersfield Town fan, which is great to see. Says, granting that Holmes Sinani have been in good form, I think Town could still use another player who can create through the middle. Maybe say a proven attacker in a contract dispute at Swansea. I don't know who he's thinking about there. And Terrier7-2 says he's not sure a 30-year-old throwing his dummy out of his pram is the type of signing we need. Again, so that player in that they're talking about is Jamie Patterson. Jamie Patterson is a player that we've been linked with recently. Apparently, we've also got a goalkeeper on trial, Jamal Blackman. I've seen somewhere has joined us on trial. Not a player I think is great, to be honest, but in terms of backup if Ryan Schofield's injured wouldn't be a terrible idea. I'm going to throw this back to Tom. Just mute Phil for a second because of the feedback. But Tom, what are you thinking in terms of what Town need? I look at last week where Swansea, I thought against Swansea, we really needed someone, and in a number of games really where, in the middle of the park, Huddersfield are quite sloppy in possession, especially when we're under pressure. Hoggy, Jonathan Hogg. I'm trying to think who was playing against Swansea. There was Hogg, Turton, Sorba, Lewis O'Brien, Josh Koroma, etc. And they could all be a little bit attacking in terms of their intent, which can often mean that they're trying things and they can be a bit looser. And I think maybe it just needs, for me, somebody who can get on the ball, a la Carol Lighting, a la Aaron Moy, who can just take the sting out of a game sometimes and just take the ball away from the opposition and set us up again. I think that's potentially what we lack. In terms of who, I'm not entirely sure, but give us your thoughts, Tom, on what you think Huddersfield could or should be looking for in this last week.
Well, I agree with you there, Matt, with that kind of player, but I personally can't think of anyone who you'd be getting
Aaron Moy.
Could afford. Yeah. Anyone that we're getting that we could afford, or that maybe is even available at the moment. It's difficult, isn't it? Because with all the COVID and the COVID problems and squads being small, apparently, are you going to be able to get loans from any Prem teams now? And you've also got to think about the players that are out injured and could come back. So Pippa's been Pippa caused so many problems on Saturday. It was so good to see him back, and he was like a new signing. When Vallejo's back, he brings that kind of calm, experienced head. I think you miss him sometimes. But I honestly don't know. And I think that kind of, you don't want to bring it. I really think that was a good point about bringing someone in who could potentially ruin the bonding that this team has now got. Because you can tell it's there. It looks really good in there at the moment. But ideally, yeah, if you get Moy back, that would be brilliant, wouldn't it?
Hey, what about you, Andy? I think I don't think Aaron Moy is coming back because obviously he's in China on something like 60 grand a week. So the loan fees to take him back would be astronomical. But yeah, that for me and for Tom, that's something. What about you when you see what you see out there? There's obviously more than just a central midfielder potentially.
But I'd like, because we're relying so much on Danny Ward, if we bring Fraser Campbell in or Jordan Rhodes in, they're nowhere near the standard that Danny's currently setting. So I know we've had his fingers burned with Meepo, with the loan from the guy from West Ham who just wasn't up to it, didn't look interested when I saw him play at Barnsley. It was just running around a little bit. I think I'd like another striker. So we've got 4 to pick from. And I'm just worried about Danny's not got the greatest injury record in the world ever. So will this, because he works so hard, are we going to get the hamstring that goes or something along those lines? So I'd like something in there. And then I look at the bench and you look at it every week and think, who's going to come on and have a big impact there? Is there anybody that we could bring on from the bench? And no disrespect to them, but Russell, Ollie Turton, people like that, great pros who are, we need to be getting players better than those guys to have an impact and in whichever area of the pitch that we need. Obviously, Dwayne Holmes coming back in is going to make a big difference, and Colwell coming back on because he's just class above. But yeah, that creative, whether it should be Patterson, there's a reason that we've not gone back for him up since the Wagner times. I think he was a bit hit and miss, and we need somebody who's going to be consistent for the last, what have we got, 18 games left? And we just need somebody who can make an impact in those 18 games, be it from the bench or in the starting 11. We've got to up the overall strength of the quality of the squad, because looking at it, if we do what we did, I did a bit of research on this. The games that we've played against the lads that we've got, the teams that we've got left, we're only going, if we replicate those results, we're only going to end up with 68 points. So we ain't going to get in the playoffs. average is over the last 7 years is 75 points. So we've got to find another 7 or 8 points from somewhere, and that for me is increasing the quality across the squad in 2 or 3 places. And then if we get might get a bit of luck, because there was a fair bit of luck for me yesterday. Deflections and Danny Ward trapping it with his bollocks and it just dropping at his feet and him sliding it in. That's sometimes the way football goes for you. But we just need an upgrade. And if it means that some lads that are in the team now drop onto the bench and those other ones drop down, so be it. As long as it's not sober, then that's fine by me. Anybody else but not sober.
Phil, you've seen a fair amount of town this year. What about you? I think there's some good points here. Central midfielder who can get on the ball, maybe another creative outlet that can play as a 10 or wide, like Sinani. Because when we thought Sinani was injured, you're kind of thinking, well, there's no one else that does that role either. And obviously, Jordan Rhodes is a really good fox in the box type. But if Danny Ward gets injured, then he can't. We've seen it when Jordan came on against Nottingham Forest for an hour. He can't press from the front like Danny Ward can. He doesn't do the same thing. He doesn't do that same role. Whereas Jordan's the one that you want 20 minutes to go. You need a goal, throw Jordan on, and put the ball in the box, and he's perfect. So we've identified 3. Big job already for Mr. Bromby and Mr. Hoyle, etc. For with our demands, if you like. Anything else that you can think to add to that or agree with in there?
I 100% agree with Andy's comment in terms of when you look at the bench. I think I personally wouldn't change anything in the starting 11. I think they're going well. I think, like you say, the connections there with them all now. There is a lack of quality at times in the middle of the pitch. We give the ball away so much when it's real simple passes, but they're working hard. So I have no issue with that, and they're trying to do the right things as well. So, but I just think the quality out wide. If Karoma's, he's not having a great season. He's not having a great season. He's doing okay, but I just think something out wide, something in the 10, something up front. I think those three positions for me are quite key. And Andy's right. There's always someone who can drop to the bench, but Dwayne's been fantastic in the pocket. He's done really well at times when he's dropped in there, and I just think sometimes you can bring people in just for the sake of it, and we need to make sure that it's going to be something that will fit for us. Because let's be honest, playoffs, bloody hell, we'll be more than buzzing if we get it playoffs, and it's not what we expect. So let's just think about, let's forward think a little bit, and what will happen next year, who's going to benefit. I like Russell. I think he's come on. I think he looks decent. I really do. I think he looks like he's got a good temperament. He'll have had a great upbringing from Chelsea, so he'll understand the game very well. He'll be able to adapt to the situation. And I think it's positive. I just think we do need a little bit of quality. The young lads have done ever so well. Scott High, lads who come on. But I just think if we can nab a little bit of quality. But Tom's 100% right. Where do you get it from? Matt, you mentioned about COVID. It's our squad's going to keep the players. There's loads of talent out there. There's loads of talent, but you want someone hungry. Smith Rowe. You want Smith Rowe hungry. Want to prove themselves. Look at these guys now who've come on loan, and within one season they're flying in the first team when they go back. We want those players, and when you mentioned there about Bromby, that's the key element. That is the key element. Danny Schofield mentioned at the start of the season about the team spirit and the quality of people that they've got. Actual people, not players. The quality of people that they've got. You need to find someone, and this is where it is difficult, to fit straight into that. Who's got an agenda themselves? They want to prove a point, and good luck to them. I hope they do find somebody, but if not, I don't think it's a major issue. As long as people come back to fitness, and as long as people stay fit, that's the biggest issue.
Okay, so let's so I think one good point as well. Tom mentioned COVID as well, and I think we covered it a couple of weeks ago. The amount of call-offs that have been happening through December and January. The issue there is I think that a lot of teams are going to look to hold on to those under 21 players because they don't count towards the 25-man Premier League squad, and that's the difficulty, isn't it? Knowing how that shakes out. So because Man City have got, you've got your Rory Delap's kid up there who's a great striker, Cole Palmer's, etc. But they're not going to let these players go because they've got so many games coming up. So it's going to be really tricky to find somebody. I think probably the best bet is to go and raid somewhere who we've seen people struggling financially, but again, how much whack do Huddersfield Town have? So it's going to it's going to be an interesting week for sure. And one player which has been rumoured to leave the club is Josh Koroma. Now, I have this conch here, which will be smashed into bits onto the floor if Josh Koroma leads Huddersfield Town. He's not set the world alight this year as much as he did last year. I still think there's a really good player in Josh Koroma there if he can just reignite something. I'd be disappointed to see him go, guys, in all honesty. I'd be really disappointed if Josh Koroma left. Ryan Longman has been linked, who's doing well at Hull, so whether they're, Ryan Giles, maybe they're thinking, we could shift him on for $2 million and bring someone in that is more Carlos-like. But Phil, you've unmuted yourself. I like Josh Koroma. I think you do as well.
The thing is, though, if he doesn't want to be there, get rid. I have no time for people sitting around a club not wanting to be there, and I've got loads of time for him. I think he's a talent. He's coming back into a little bit of form. But if these people don't want to be at a club, times have changed nowadays, haven't they? It's player power. So for me, ship them on and bring someone else in of quality. And we've found quality in Sorba Thomas. I'm sure we'll find it again if we've got things right behind the scenes. So I know you like him. Sometimes you just got to let go. Do you know what I mean?
I'm clinging to this still.
Can't always keep them. There'll be a new one somewhere else. Don't you worry.
Yeah. Good times. I'll have to make a video to go out, like farewell videos or something. Like 40 years old and doing that. Hey. So anyway. So let's have a look online. So Jerry Hinnan says, fair enough. I don't think players with Patterson's level of production this season are available on Town's budget very often, and he'd be worth the gamble. I think Jamie Patterson would be fantastic on loan. You do kind of think, he's 30. He's probably thinking, do you know what? This is probably the last decent chance of a decent contract I'm going to get. I think on loan to the end of the season would be great. The likelihood of that happening will probably be slim, with Swansea wanting to sell, and Jamie Patterson will be thinking, do you know what? I want 3 years here for my last move. I think it's going to play out that somebody's going to have to pay him a decent amount until he's 33 years old, and it just depends who's going to want to do that, I would imagine. Move on to James Johnson. Terrier792 says he agrees we need a central midfielder with a calm look up and pass. James Johnson says if we brought Blackman in until the end of the season and find Ryan Schofield a League One club to loan to, all loaned out players all seem to be playing well. Bez says I'd like a midfield creator just because we are short there, but I can't see them getting anyone. And I don't think Carlos wants anyone either, judging by his comments. Carlos is a dream, isn't he, for a chairman, because he likes to work with and analyse what he's got. I think you get the impression that transfers are a complete hindrance to a Carlos Corberán. You know what I mean? He wants to, work with the people that he's got in his squad, and moving people in and out kind of interferes with his strong coaching ethos. I feel that with Carlos as well. Bez also says, I like Viaco, but let's be honest, the guy is rarely available, gets injured and takes a lifetime to get fit again. I think Viaco's out till March, which is quite a while, and it will take him a little while to get fit. So, we probably won't see him a lot until the end of the season. Pete Swallow says, would like to see a couple of young players from Premier League clubs come in, young players from the Premier on different level to our young kids. We'll cover that though, Pete. It might be difficult with COVID and the amount of games that are coming up, but hopefully we'll be able to find someone. James Johnson says, forgotten man Danny Grant could play on the wing. Casey Palmer return. The Casey Palmer trail went pretty cold, really, didn't it? I don't really see how Casey Palmer really fits into that 3-4-3 system, really. I'm not sure. I don't know. I think there's a few red flags with Casey Palmer, his fitness and, high wages. I'm not sure that's someone I want to... I liked him first time round, and I think I'll kind of want to keep him there, if you know what I mean. Just keep that memory of the good first time. Danny Grant's an interesting one, Phil. I think he's had a few issues, hasn't he, with his hamstrings, fitness-wise. I think he's training twice a week at the minute because of injuries. Have you come across anyone like that, 3 playing days, who kind of struggles to... I remember there was a guy that we've brought a couple of non-league guys in before during Jacko's time and stuff. Anybody you can think of who can only train a couple? Paul McGrath. You think of Paul McGrath. But Danny Grant seems to have a lot of ability. Would you throw him in, or do you think he needs to get fully up to speed?
He's one that I've been most excited about, because I think the level that we're playing at in Ireland, I think it was proving to be a good player over there, and for me in a position like that, come over with a bit of confidence. Anything can happen, but he's been so unlucky, hasn't he? And going back to people not being able to train. Andy Booth never trained.
Or bought a pint, as you always used to say.
Absolute shambles, hobbling all over the place, just doing whatever he wanted. But he earned that, didn't he? But you're right. I mean, what the guy called at Tottenham that played all that time, centre half, Ledley King.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to manage people, but I think in a certain position, a winger, you've got to be training. I think if centre half, it's totally different ballgame if you're experienced, but you've got to be training. So it's a difficult one, really, isn't it? And he is the forgotten man. They made the signing, and it's a player that a few people are excited about, and we just haven't seen him, have we? And so, most of the time they come, they play, they get injured, and then you don't see him. But this lad, we haven't even seen him. But he's been performing in the B team 23s, has he?
Yeah, yes, yeah.
I saw him play for the B team about a month ago. Really impressed. The thing for me is that if we're keeping him at the club, they must really see something in him, because the lad's track record of being fit has been. You really feel for him that when he first came over, started off really well, and then his hamstring went. They must really see a player there. And I saw a little bit of that on. I mean, they only played. I think they won something like 8-0, 8-1 or something against Watford, the game that I went to. And he looked a really, really good, inventive player. Just fingers crossed he can get fit and start challenging. It'd be a great signing, like you say.
Mad, isn't it? Because he'll have been training full time over there, but obviously to what kind of standard you don't know, do you? It's training methods are totally different, and I think obviously Carlos's training methods are quite intense and repetitive, and I think you'd ask a lot of you for every training session. Just going back to what you were saying about Carlos and his players, they do invest a hell of a lot of time in every single player, getting them up to speed, trying to get them, in the mindset of how the whole club want to play. It's not just one team; it's the whole club. So, fair play to him. Like I say, going back to transfers, fair play to him if he's not too interested in bringing people in. But you can't overlook the facts. That the lad who mentioned on the message there's some real quality in the Premier League. But Harvey Blair, is it Harvey Blair at Liverpool? Local lad. Played a couple of Carling Cup games.
I remember,
local kid, I was just thinking about that. Obviously, it's the time now where with the Carabao Cup out of the way, and obviously a few teams drop out FA Cup. There's games to be had for some of the youngsters in the second half of the season. So I won't be surprised if quite a few went out.
Pat Jones as well scored a hat-trick for the B team as well the other day. He's a really highly rated young man as well, and he's really good, sharp winger. So you never know, you might see
I like the look of
Pat
him.
Jones. Yeah, good little player. So you never know.
Best of all of them, Etienne Kamara. Etienne Kamara is the best of all of them.
Is he going to be sponsored by AKLD next year as well? Putting you.
Yeah, actually, that's what I'm going to talk to the commercial about. Can I have two for the price of one? Absolutely belting player, that lad.
Yeah, and I tell you what, it looks physically. He looks built physically for it as well. It looks like it's sometimes like with Scott High. Sometimes you might think, and I don't know if it's the way that he plays, because like John Worthington, he had the smallest arms in bloody football, but you couldn't knock him off the ball because he had tree trunk legs. So I think you've got to be, for a young kid, if you've got that little bit of an edge as well, where you've got that physical presence. And he looks like he does, doesn't he? I mean, I don't know how he's playing up Harrogate at the moment. There's been a few reports where he's been doing well, but he's one. We've said that for 2 years now, haven't we? He looks quite exciting and a different kind of player to what we've got. So, I think I'm sure there's a few that can step in really.
They're not. It's really exciting, isn't it? So some of the reports from these loans, like Kean Harrett those 2 goals he scored for Port Vale so far,
brilliant goals,
quality.
Yeah. He only played 20 minutes on Saturday, did Kean Harrett. I've got a few little notes here. Romany Critchlow made his debut for Plymouth and got man of the match, which was great to see.
Man of the match.
Romani Edmonds-Green was on the bench unused. Brahima Diarra, but Romani Edmonds-Green, I've seen Rotherham fans say is the best centre half in League One, so that's going really well. Brahima Diarra is doing really well at Harrogate, playing 90 minutes the other day. The Harrogate fans really like him. Josh Osterfield's there. He's played 11 minutes, I think, the other day. So 11 minutes is 11 minutes. They're getting game time. They've been around, a professional club. It's really working well at the minute. I've always been quite critical of the type of academy setup we've got, but I've always been very pro getting players out on loan and finding really meaningful loans. And Town are really smashing that at the minute sending players out at the right time. And the guys, David Fox, the loan manager. It's a completely new role, this, isn't it, in football? A loan manager sounds like someone at the bank, doesn't it? But he's finding some really good loans for people, and they're doing really well. So they've been managed brilliantly by him. So long may that continue. Let's just finish off with some of these comments. Right, where were we? I think we had just finished off with James. Terrier 7N2 says Dan Barlaser would be a good signing in his opinion. Dan Barlaser is one who I think he was at Rotherham in the Championship last year, and he was a little bit in and out, but he's really sort of found his feet this year at Rotherham, and he's got a really good passing range, and he could potentially be, someone you would look at to be that midfielder, who's got an agenda, point to prove, like Ollie Rathbone as well, another player who's sort of really tenacious, decent on the ball. These guys want to step up, don't they, and move to another level. So that's probably a good shout from Mike. Is that he also mentions he doesn't think Karoma fits into the system now. Times he's got into positions where a simple layoff is needed. Keith Robinson says I would be miffed if Josh goes, but if he doesn't want to be here, let him go. That's what you said, Phil, isn't it? We don't really know, do we, if Josh Karoma wants to be here or not. I think sometimes people can read a bit too much, maybe, into body language on the field, potentially. But
can I just say, Matt, on Saturday, I think he was trying too hard to score a goal. Like that person just said then about him, he could have laid it off a number of times on Saturday, and he just had a shot instead. And I don't know whether it's his confidence has dipped because he's not performing as well as last year, and he wants to get back on that track. It just seemed like he was just trying a bit too hard. He's still there in it. Hopefully he isn't want to go, because I think he's got something that's so. Somebody's
washing machine's finished, I think, in the background there, whoever that was.
Yeah, that's mine, sorry.
I think it's the same washing machine I've got. I recognise that noise. So another couple of good ones. Keith Robinson says, good show tonight, lads. Keep it up. Thanks, Keith. So James Johnson says, Diarra doing well at Harrogate. Osterfield making progress too. Critchlow, Edmonds Green, solid. Harat performing well. Sorry, Kian. Phillips being played out of position, so hard to judge. Yeah, that's a good point, actually. There's a lot of washing finishing in Tom's house right now. But
washing's not going to be ignored, is it?
No, it's like going, you will empty me. But yeah, that's it's the loans. It's really exciting that we're seeing. I think maybe the recruitment at times in the academy. We've questioned the sort of some of the intakes and what have you, but they're all pulling trees up at the minute and doing really well, and long may that continue. So well done to everybody who's working hard down at the academy and helping these lads improve and get on their way. Bez says maybe a case of second season syndrome for Josh Karoma. He'll be back firing next season. Phil's disappeared. I don't know where he's gone to. Maybe his battery's gone. Who knows? But we're about to finish soon anyway. But maybe he speaks for us all. I think that was it really in terms of the window. So I think we're all sort of agreed that it's not the end of the world if nobody comes in. We would ideally, you would think, you would like 2 or 3 players. To sort of give us that push towards the top 6. The top 6 is going to be tough. There's a lot of teams with games in hand who aren't too far behind. But saying that, it's not the end of the world because of the way the tighten it, the squad's tighten it. If we don't, so it's really interesting. So, anything to add for you guys before we head off and sail off into the night? No, Tom. Sorry, Tom, for referring to you as Stephen Chicken. on Twitter. Tom posted a picture of himself at the game, and he had the same smile as Stephen Chicken. I was just scrolling through, and I was like, "Is that Steve?" And no, it's Tom. So he's a bit of a chicker-like. He's Tom, with his hat on. But go on, Andy. You've got a few points.
No. Just a couple of. There are 5 teams that can catch us up: Middlesbrough, Stoke, Coventry, Blades, and Luton. And I just not all of them are going to do it. So I just think if let's just give it a go, please. Just try something. That you never know. What's the worst that could happen? We ain't going to go down. So I'd love the club just to give it a little bit of a go. I've just seen something. I know where Phil's gone. I've just seen a tweet come through here that the Comoros Islands that are playing in AFCON. They've got 3 goalkeepers out, so they're going to have to play Cameroon with an outfield player in goal. So that's where Phil's gone. He's on his way to the Comoros Islands.
He's off to check his birth certificate. Yeah, off to check his. Yeah.
Yeah. He wasn't born in Cricket, he was born in the Comoros Islands. That's where he's on his way to.
Ah, dear. Fantastic. Right. Okay. So yeah, I think that's it. I think we're all singing on the same hymn sheet here tonight. So Phil's back. So there we go. Phil is back in the room.
Here
so
he is.
just about to go there. Phil finished and we he's frozen again. Off he goes. But yeah. So thanks to everybody who's joined us online. There's not really any more comments. Phil's frozen again, but oh no, he's back.
Yeah.
Is Phil? We're just about to wrap it all up. We're just wondering if you've got anything that you want to finish with.
No, it's just nice to see you all again. It's going really well, isn't it? We're all happy. Everyone's happy.
I know.
It's nice to come on one after the win, because normally when I'm on, we've lost, and it's been a horrendous performance, and everyone's miserable. So yeah, it's all positive. Looking forward to Friday. Looking forward to seeing what happens towards the end of the season, to be honest. I think it's exciting times.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get the fans down.
Yeah.
£10 a game, every game. £2 a game. Get everyone back in.
That's it, isn't it? Do you know what would be quite interesting as well? It'd be good if we could, I think there's a safety issue, isn't there, with the FM lower. It'd be good if that could be resolved and we could get some people behind that goal as well, because I think it makes a difference when you've got fans behind both goals. No matter how many people are there, I think it does make a difference to the players. So hopefully, that could be resolved. If not, it is what it is. But I think everybody.
I think Cowshed should be at that side, to be honest.
We did it, Phil, but it didn't really work. I'll pass those on to Pozza. For you. I'll let Pozza
Poz just don't want to get wet, does he? That's what it is.
No one wants to get wet. But yeah, so I think that's it for this week. So I think the message from us to the club is carry on. You're doing a great job. So well done, everyone. So thanks to everybody who's joined us online. Thanks to Mike, Terry7 says great show, and James as well. So thanks to you guys. Thanks for joining us on a Sunday night. And this will be out in the usual places within an hour or so. Guys, sorry about the tech issues at the start. No idea what it was, but we're all sorted now. So good lads, off we go. And let's roll those end credits.
There's a team that is dear to its followers. The colours are bright blue and white. They're a team of renown, and they're the pride of the town. And the game of football is their delight. And all the while upon the field of play, thousands loudly cheer them on the way. Often you can hear them say, who can beat the town today? And then the bells will ring so merrily, and every goal shall be a memory. So town, play up and bring that cup back to Huddersfield. So town, play up and bring the cup back to Huddersfield.